The emergency session of the Galactic Council had never been called for a reason like this. High Chancellor Zareth stood at the center of the Great Chamber, his 4 eyes scanning the assembled representatives of 47 civilizations. The bioluminescent patterns on his skin flickered, a sign, those who knew him well understood, of something rarely felt in his 300 years of life. Fear. "Play it again," he said quietly. The holographic display activated. The footage was grainy, captured from a Verati surveillance drone before it was destroyed, but clear enough. A small team of 12 humans moved through the burning ruins of Outpost Krell 7. Not running. Not retreating. Moving forward, into the fire, into the Verati kill zone where 300 heavily armored shock troopers waited. The council chamber was absolutely silent. What followed lasted 4 minutes and 17 seconds. When it was over, the 12 humans walked out. Not a single one had fallen. 300 Verati had. "These are not their regular soldiers," said Ambassador Trellick of the Serati Collective, his crest raised in alarm. "I've seen human infantry. I've seen their naval officers. These are something else. They are what humans call special forces," High Chancellor Zareth said. He let the words settle over the room like a stone dropped into still water. "And we made the mistake of not asking what that meant." Admiral Darian Voss did not look like a weapon. That was, he had always thought, rather the point. He sat across from High Chancellor Zareth in a private meeting room aboard the Council flagship Eternal Accord, a cup of coffee in his hand, actual coffee, brought from Earth, because Darian Voss was a man of specific habits. He was 51 years old. Gray touched his temples. He had a scar along his jaw that he'd never had repaired, because the mission that gave it to him had saved 6,000 lives and he considered it a fair trade. He looked to the alien dignitaries who occasionally glimpsed him in corridors, like someone's grandfather. "High Chancellor," he said pleasantly. "You wanted to talk about the Krell 7 engagement." Zareth folded 3 of his 4 hands together, a Galthari gesture of deliberate calm. "Admiral Voss. The Council wants to understand what we witnessed. The Verati have been pushing the frontier for 6 years. Entire fleets have failed to stop them. Your government sent 12 soldiers. 13, technically," Darian said. Sergeant Okafor was running Overwatch from 2 kilometers out. "Incredible shot." He sipped his coffee. "You'd like her." 12 soldiers, Zareth repeated carefully, eliminated an entrenched Verati battalion. "I have advisors who are suggesting these individuals are genetically enhanced. Cybernetically augmented. Some kind of. They're not." Darian set his cup down. "They're just people, Chancellor. People who volunteered, and then survived selection, and then trained. For years. Constantly. Every day of their careers." Zareth was quiet for a moment. "Your regular soldiers also train." "They do," Darian agreed. "But there's a difference between training to fight, and training to become something that fighting cannot stop." He looked out the viewport at the stars. "When we talk about special forces, we're not talking about better equipment or better genetics. We're talking about what happens when a human being decides, completely and deliberately, to exceed every limit they previously thought they had, and then keeps going past that too. For what purpose?" Darian turned back to him. "To go where no one else can go. To do what no one else can do. To make sure that when everything has gone wrong and all other options are gone, there is still something standing between the innocent and the threat." He paused. "We've been making people like this for centuries, Chancellor. Before we ever reached the stars. The Verati just happened to be the first to learn the hard way. What the Council did not fully understand, what perhaps no species in the galaxy could fully understand without being human, was the culture. The 47 civilizations of the Galactic Council had professional warriors. They had elite units. They had soldiers decorated with honors and equipped with the finest technology their treasuries could provide. but none of them had ever done what humans did to the ones they called their best. They broke them first. Not in cruelty, in preparation. The selection programs were deliberate ordeals, weeks of sleep deprivation, cold water, carrying impossible loads across impossible distances, while instructors watched with clinical eyes for the ones who would not stop. Could not stop. Would not. The ones who passed were not necessarily the strongest or the fastest at the start. They were the ones who, when their body screamed that it was done, reached down into something below the body and found more. Then the real training began. Languages, 4, 5, 6 of them, including alien ones. Medicine. Engineering. Survival in every environment humanity had catalogued. Weapons systems that took ordinary soldiers a year to master. Infiltration. Exfiltration. The ability to sit motionless for 30 hours watching a target and then act in the space between one heartbeat and the next. And beneath all of it, braided through every lesson like iron wire, was a philosophy so simple it sounded almost naive. The mission comes first. Your teammates come second. You come last. In practice, this meant something the Verati commander at Krell 7 had not understood until it was far too late. These soldiers could not be broken by making the situation worse. Making the situation worse was their environment. They had trained in worse. They had been forged in worse. When the Verati had cut off their extraction route and killed their communications relay and set the outpost ablaze to drive them into a killing ground, the 12 operators of Ghost Team 9 had looked at each other in the smoke and burning dark, and their team leader, a woman of 33 who had once swum 4 miles through Arctic water to reach a hostage, had said simply, "Good. Now they can't run from us either." High Chancellor Zareth requested a second meeting, 3 days later. "The Council has been discussing your special forces," he said. "There are those who are concerned." Admiral Voss raised an eyebrow. "Concerned how?" "There are 47 civilizations in this council, Admiral. Many have old wounds with one another. Old wars, old resentments kept carefully contained by treaty and mutual interest." Zareth's bioluminescent patterns shifted to something subdued, almost cautious. "The knowledge that humanity possesses soldiers of this capability, soldiers that can apparently neutralize any conventional defense with a small team, makes certain members nervous." Darien looked at him for a long moment. "Chancellor," he said, "let me tell you something about special forces that the footage doesn't show." He leaned forward slightly. "These aren't assassins. They aren't conquerors. Every unit in our special operations community has a culture built around one thing: protecting people who cannot protect themselves. That's not propaganda. That's why candidates who have the skill but lack that value don't make it through selection." He held the alien leader's gaze. "We could have used these soldiers to take things. Conquer things. Humans have always had the capacity for that, and sometimes, in our history, we have. But we learned, over a very long time and at very great cost, what kind of people we actually want to be." Zareth was silent. "The Verati were killing civilians on that outpost," Darien said quietly. 42 of them, mostly researchers and their families. Ghost Team 9 went in for them. That's all. That's the whole story. Outside the viewport, the stars burned cold and patient and ancient. The High Chancellor of the Galactic Council, who had lived 300 years and presided over the fates of 100 billion souls, found that he had very little to say to that. He settled, finally, for, "How many of these teams does Earth have?" Admiral Darien Voss smiled. It was a small smile, and entirely genuine, and it did not answer the question even slightly. "Enough," he said. Later, when Zareth reported to the full council, he chose his words with the precision of long experience. "Humanity has shown us something today," he said. "Not a weapon. A standard." He looked around at the 47 representatives, some ancient, some new to the galaxy's politics, all watching him with careful eyes. They have looked at the worst that can happen and they have built people specifically to meet it. That is not something to fear. He paused. It is something to learn from. In the Verati Dominion, the commanders were already quietly reclassifying the Krell 7 incident in their strategic databases. The classification they chose, after considerable debate, was simple. Do not engage. Do not provoke. Do not give them a reason. Somewhere in the galaxy, in training facilities whose locations were classified at the highest levels, men and women were waking before dawn to begin another day of becoming something that the rest of the universe was only beginning to understand. They did not know they had made the galaxy shudder. They wouldn't have cared, particularly. They had a next evolution to pass.